There is conflicting information as to whether the FBI actually got corrupted cellular data. They didn't. Corrupted data? Pretty obvious. I mean, that is like as obvious as you could get it. And I don't know if somebody pulled that out a little bit. This is a pipe bomb. Hello. The FBI determined that all 5 devices had Arizona phone numbers tied to their accounts, and all 5 appeared in the vicinity of the Capital South Metro station. You know who was from Arizona? Ray Epps. Weird. A new report on the January 6th pipe bomber released by the Committee on House Administration. You know, Chairman Loudermilk and Thomas Massie dropping this fresh in the new year, January 2nd, right out of the oven, saying today the Committee on House Administration is releasing this new report examining the state of the investigation into the RNC and the DNC pipe bombs. While we've got other IEDs floating around New Orleans and other exploding bombs in the back of cyber trucks in front of Trump Hotel, we're still asking our question about that random J6 pipe bomber that they cannot find. All of his cell phone data was scrambled and you can't recover it. It's one of the weirdest things that Stephen D'Antonio ever experienced as a special agent there in DC. Weird how that happens. Missing records. But here is the report. They've got some takeaways for us. We know we've been waiting for this for quite some time, and here it is finally. The interim staff report on the investigation into the pipe bombs, published January 2nd, 2025. Happy New Year. On January 6th, 2021, almost 4 years ago to the day, federal law enforcement discovered 2 pipe bombs near the headquarters at the RNC and the DNC. Now, the discovery of both pipe bombs, which had been laying outside for more than 16 hours, occurred within minutes of Congress's vote to certify the election. What a weird coincidence. They're out there floating around for 16 hours and then boom, discovered conveniently, and resulted in law enforcement diverting considerable resources away from the Capitol so that it could be raided and ransacked by people like Ray Epps. Now, as a result, while law enforcement responded to pipe bombs, protesters breached security perimeters and then suddenly entered the building. How convenient. According to the FBI, on January 5th, an unknown suspect carrying a backpack and wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a mask, gloves, glasses, and a pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers, they got those, planted the pipe bombs. Both pipe bombs, according to the FBI, were viable explosives. They said that could have detonated, causing innocent bystanders to be seriously injured or killed. A serious and largely overlooked security failure on J6 was the delayed discovery of the pipe bombs. Why didn't they find those when they were doing their sweeps? And the chaotic response of federal law enforcement after their discovery. Throughout the afternoon of J6, federal law enforcement struggled to secure and maintain a perimeter around the bombs. Couldn't even protect that. Remember, Kamala was walking right by it, resulting in pedestrian and vehicular traffic walking by the bombs. On multiple occasions, federal law enforcement repeatedly identified breaches of the perimeters around the pipe bombs, but couldn't even control it. There was a complete breakdown in command and control. Now, we're 4 years later, federal law enforcement has yet to identify the individual. Can't find him. Remains one of the most unanswered questions from the day. In the early weeks of the investigation, the FBI took significant steps to identify multiple people of interest, issuing search warrants, reviewing hours of security footage, and analyzing the bombs. Now, despite the threat that the bombs pose to Congress and everybody else, including diverting resources away from the Capitol that you were supposed to be protecting, the federal law enforcement has refused to give us updates. They diverted from our security, we got overrun, and they won't even answer questions about it. Following January 6th, various congressional committees, inspectors general, and everybody, they conducted investigations. But however, until now, no committee has reviewed the failures of the pipe bomb or law enforcement's investigation into the suspect and their failures to find the guy. Here's what we know. In June, Congress created the fake January 6th committee. They had rules which were identifying a bunch of things. And in fact, what they did in their little fake report, that's 845 pages, their giant book report that Liz Cheney wrote, it referenced the pipe bombs 5 times only in passing because they know who did it and it was probably them. When establishing the J6 committee, Congress mandated that they come to a conclusion and that the records would be transferred after the committee was over. However, a thorough review of almost 3 terabytes of data shockingly shows there's few results about the pipe bomb at all. They didn't even care. This shows how they failed to thoroughly investigate the pipe bomb entirely. And so now we're here. The purpose of these investigations is to investigate your failures. And we've done a lot of work on this. We've got 90,000 documents, 3 terabytes of digital data. The goal of our investigation was to determine how this happened. happened? The inquiry revealed a series of security failures in response to the pipe bombs. And based on a thorough review of everything we've looked at, CCTV footage, radio transcripts and transmissions, which is interesting that the Capitol Police saved those because we know the Secret Service does not. They shred those. And documents obtained as part of the investigation, we now determine the following: that law enforcement failed to identify one of the devices during a routine security sweep, walked right by it, idiots, or intentional, failed to properly secure or maintain a perimeter around the pipe bombs after they found them and had orders to protect them. Pedestrians and vehicles crossed within feet of the bombs. They allowed the motorcade of the House of Representatives to drive through an active bomb scene. They allowed commuter trains to cross a bridge next to the DNC, placing civilians next to the bombs. They transmitted inaccurate information over the radios, resulting in civilians being close. The review of this investigation into the suspect is also horrific. It revealed the following: there is conflicting information as to whether the FBI actually got corrupted cellular data. They didn't. Corrupted data? We've gone through this before. A former senior FBI official testified that the major cell carrier companies provided corrupted cell data to the FBI. We couldn't access it, and suggested that the corrupted data may have had the identity of the bomber there. However, in responses to letters, the major cell carriers said, no, we didn't provide corrupted data to the FBI. It's ridiculous. The FBI never notified them of any issues at all accessing the cellular data. The FBI is filled with liars, and Stephen D'Antonio and this whole corrupted thing is total lies. The FBI identified multiple persons of interest during the initial weeks and months of the investigation. At first, there was a person of interest who searched the term pipe bomb DC online prior to law enforcement's discovery of the pipe bomb, but after their placement. So somebody was checking to see, did anybody find a pipe bomb in DC yet? See how granular they can get there? Somebody searched pipe bomb DC. Nobody found the bombs yet. How did the person know about the bomb? Before the discovery, but after they were placed. So they timed it, man. They nailed the dude. A person of interest who on the morning of January 5th took photographs of the area behind the RNC where one of the bombs would later be planted. Who's that person? Scoping out the scene. Who could that be? A vehicle of interest carrying a passenger, matching the description of the suspect that drove past the RNC minutes after the suspect planted the pipe bombs. And another person of interest who owned a pair of Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers who worked in the area of the crime. They found the shoes. I'm like, oh, dang it. It's Liz Cheney. Shoot, it was her. Hey, 5 persons of interest or potential targets whose cellular data indicated the movements on January 5th may have matched the movements of the suspect. So gobs of data. Now, despite its initial efforts, the FBI is yet to identify the suspect and has refused to give us any information about these leads because it's them. The DOJ has claimed that the FBI has pursued its investigations of Americans with unprecedented speed and scale. In fact, the department has charged more than 1,500 people in 50 states. Now, in contrast, after more than 1,400 days since the 2 pipe bombs were found, the FBI has made no arrest at all, has charged no individuals with planting the bombs. No, of course not, because they'd rather go raid grandmas. Since its initial progress in the early weeks and months, there has been little meaningful progress on the apprehension of the pipe bomber, because they don't care, because they know who it is. This report presents the information known to the subcommittee, saying the pipe bombs outside played a role in diverting resources from the Capitol. They placed many people in harm's way, but 4 years later, no details about what happened, because our intelligence agencies have no agency and they have no intelligence. On J6, we know a lot of people were there. 25 to 30,000 people. Capitol Police knew it. 12 p.m., Trump spoke. 12:30, demonstrators moving towards the Capitol. At 12 p.m., Carolyn Younger, a resident of the Capitol Hill neighborhood, exited her residence to use the laundry room located in the alleyway behind the RNC and the Capitol Hill Club. Here's the location: U.S. Capitol, RNC headquarters, DNC headquarters. RNC's here in blue, DNC there in blue. Now, by the DNC, there was the pipe bomb. Remember what that looked like? Seen right there by the bench. And pretty obvious. I mean, that is like as obvious as you could get it. And I don't know if somebody pulled that out a little bit. This is a pipe bomb. Hello. The only thing you could do to make that more observant would be to put like flashing LED lights on there that says like a countdown timer detonation. That'd be even more sophisticated. More obvious. Let me just drop this right here by the bench. Like, can't you tuck it behind the bushes? Like, put it behind the bushes or something, man. Like, if you really just tuck it, there's branches right there. Just pick a branch up, put it over it, unless they wanted somebody to see it, you know? Here's another scene of this one. Here's this hidden pipe bomb. This one's over at the RNC. Looks like somebody just tucked it right back there by a trash can and a rat motel tucked over there right right by the RNC, not exactly near it though. See, that's where it was. Not exactly near the building. Like you'd think maybe it should be like right here or something. But they just kind of wanted somebody to see it and cause a ruckus and be a diversionary excuse so that they could go over there. And then the Capitol would be wide open and they'd have plausible deniability for why that wasn't secure. So then at 12:38, when she returned to receive her laundry, Younger discovered a pipe bomb lying next to a dumpster behind the Capitol Hill Club. The CCTV footage then captured her running. She's like, holy crap, that's a pipe bomb. Because even she can figure it out. She an FBI agent? No, she's just a nice resident. Says U.S. Capitol Police CCTV footage then captured her running. She was trying to notify someone. At 12:42, Younger and an RNC security guard then exited the alleyway. She's like, hey, come look at this. Then the security guard approached the Capitol Hill officer stationed at the intersection of 1st Street and C Street, showed the officer a bomb. Capitol says, oh man, calls into dispatch. Hey man, I got this security guard. Says, I had the head of security of Republican Club come up to me and he has what it appears to be an explosive in the back of the building. Can you have some units respond? Capitol Police responded. They began blocking off the surrounding streets. Then shortly after the discovery of the bomb, 3 Capitol Police CSU people, each unit comprised of 2 plainclothes officers deployed to the surrounding areas. Or like, anything else around here? One of these head units went towards the DNC. Then at 1:05, one of the Capitol Police counter surveillance units identified an explosive next to the bench that we just saw the photo of and notified DC and Secret Service who were sitting inside nearby vehicles. 2 minutes later, one of the CSU officers from the Capitol Police noticed and notified dispatch of a bomb at the DNC, calling in 10100 at the DNC as well. Similar device that was found at the RNC as well, advising units on scene what's going on. Meanwhile, additional Capitol Police units began to respond to the DNC. Secret Service agents and Metro Police agents exited their vehicles and began looking for this thing. Around the time, the Capitol Police began evacuating the Cannon office building in the House and the James Madison Library of Congress building, 2 buildings near the DNC. So the office building, not the Capitol building, but the offices were being evacuated. Shortly thereafter, after the discovery of the RNC bomb, demonstrators breached the first set of security building barriers surrounding the Capitol. At 2:53, less than 10 minutes after the Capitol Police responded to the RNC, demonstrators were gathering near the Capitol and their reflecting pool. So it's all happening in parallel, simultaneously. After breaching the outer perimeter, demonstrators began to rush to the west front lawn, got closer to the Capitol building before the Capitol Police and the Metro PD briefly stopped the crowd at the west front to the Capitol. So here's where the march is taking place. Supporters are gathering over here on the east side, and they tell us around the same time that the joint session convened, Capitol officers responding to the pipe bombs discovered a red pickup truck. There were also 11 Molotov cocktails there, several loaded firearms, and more in a vehicle parked outside the RNC. The officer said, I've got a suspicious vehicle outside Capitol Hill Club. We searched the vehicle with a dog. No indications, however, it's definitely suspicious. Possible, inaudible, under the vehicle and their shell casings. Law enforcement responded, investigated the vehicle. They declared a scene then at 1:50 at the Capitol a riot. Then they ordered a lockdown. And at 2:12, the first demonstrators entered the building. So then as they entered the building, Capitol Police responded to both bomb scenes. The Capitol Police resources evacuated nearby buildings, attempted to secure perimeters around the RNC and DNC. They said both explosives are safe. They then declared the DNC scene clear 4:20, RNC at 6:30. Congress reconvened later around 9 p.m. They certified the results that night. And they said, hey, greatest interference with election. Okay, whatever. It was like 4.5 hours. You were back that same night. While law enforcement has not identified the suspect who planted the bombs, they were critical on that day. Whether intended or not, they created diversions. They forced law enforcement away from the Capitol. In fact, on February 23rd in testimony before the Senate, Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Sund, who wrote a great book called Courage Under Fire, stated that Capitol Hill Chief of Police Stephen Sund suggested pipe bombs were part of a coordinated plan related to the attack on the Capitol. Even he can see it. It's obvious. Chief Sund noted that the pipe bombs were planted right off the edge at the perimeter and likely to draw resources away from the Capitol. He further described the significant resources that were deployed in response. He said they all went out to look for the pipe bomb. Chief Sund also confirmed they drew resources away. So did Michael Bolton, Inspector General. In 2021, in testimony, he reported that there was only one team to cover the entire Capitol complex. Look at that. It's like out of a movie. In fact, it's like out of Die Hard. Remember that? Remember when they put that bomb in that school and then they left open the Federal Federal Reserve? Kind of what happened here. As a result, the Inspector General said that the suspect intended for the pipe bombs to be a diversion, and plainly speaking, it worked. They bought it, just like Hans Gruber said. The subcommittee now went through a lot of this. As part of their investigation, they were digging through this. Jim Jordan sent a letter to FBI about this on January 17th. He scoffed at it. On April 26th, Thomas Massie asked questions about the ATF. Chairman Loudermilk on April 27th was talking to Chief Manger, said, can you please give us some information? Then on 24th, Jordan and Biggs sent a letter to FBI Director Chris Wray. Loudermilk sent another letter, wanted every CCTV camera. Jordan, Loudermilk, and Biggs wanted all the FBI reports. They wanted a briefing, but guess what? The FBI has failed to provide any responsive documents at all. In fact, Assistant Director Matthew Fodder briefed the committee on the pipe bomb investigation, but he failed to satisfy even the committee's most basic questions and needs. They show up and they have a PowerPoint slide. On July 12th, Rep. Massie questioned FBI Director Wray, and he didn't care. Then on February 1st, did another conversation with Stephen Dettelbeck. He didn't care. Then Chairman Loudermilk sent a national letter to the Democratic Committee saying, can we please have your footage from there? They said no. Then there was another one. Letter to the Chief of Police, Pamela Smith. They wanted street camera footage from the RNC and the DNC. She said, no, you can't have any street camera footage, refusing to provide it. No, you don't have it. Then Chairman Loudermilk sent another one to law enforcement. And this one, Chief Manger did produce some of those materials, which is good. Then Loudermilk sent a letter to Secret Service. Initially, they failed to provide the documents, but maybe they have. Then Massie questioned Steve Dettelbeck. Then on May 29th, okay, they did a lot of work. They worked their butts off to get this information, and we appreciate it. So they tell us, in summary, they failed to find and to properly respond to the pipe bombs. So now we're getting into the meat and potatoes here. On January 6th, Kamala was allowed to pass within feet of the pipe bomb. On the morning of J6, after an unidentified suspect planted the bombs, Kamala went waddling by. During a security sweep, the Secret Service failed to discover the bomb, located 20 feet away from the garage, and Harris's motorcade, she was the incoming vice president-elect, drove within feet of the bomb. Look at that. That's where Kamala and her Secret Service team were walking. And this is the bomb. It's a composite image, right? It's two different screenshots they mashed together. Feet away. Prior to Harris's arrival, at least 10 Secret Service agents came within walking distance and then never discovered the device. They're like, what is that, a stove timer? It's like, yeah, I think it's a stove timer. My wife has one of those when she's cooking us meals. She turns it to 20 minutes. Why is it attached to a pipe though? I don't know. Maybe it's for irrigation? Yeah, this looks like these plants are well watered. So it's probably just irrigation. Great job, FBI and Secret Service. At approximately 8:37, an apparent Secret Service agent exited the door 20 feet away from the bomb. He's looking all over the place. Like, well, yeah, probably a drip system. At 9:11, another Secret Service agent again walked within feet of it. I wonder if he turn it on. At approximately 10:50, an apparent Secret Service agent also looked south. Another one. 2 minutes later, another one. At 11:04, another one. Then they exited the building and they walked by it right again. Then at 11:25, Harris and her motorcade drove directly by the bomb, 20 feet from her motorcade as it entered the garage. There's Kamala pulling in right there. There's the pipe bomb. Kamala was in the building for over an hour before then, so she walks in. Then some Capitol Police officer in plain clothes, not even a Secret Service dude, discovers the device. He says, hey, hello, there's a bomb out here. Then they evacuated her from the building to her residence. Probably pulled her out the other side, I would imagine. She did not return to the joint session. She was supposed to go back to the Capitol, but did not return. In July, the Inspector General released a report that examined their actions on this. They found that the K-9 teams didn't find it. The officer responsible for the sweep informed them that the sweep did not include the bushes. We checked everything except the bushes because bushes are generally safe, I guess. The Office of Inspector General also determined that they did not employ explosion detective capabilities, and so they didn't do a good job. So they were even incompetent back then. They also know that they failed to secure and maintain a perimeter around the bombs once they actually found them. At one point, they even drove Pelosi within feet of the bombs. And I think the issue is, did they know the bombs were there? Were they concerned about the bombs? Here's another conversation. Like, well, those are our bombs. We're not worried. Oh, the pipe bombs? No, Liz told me she put those out there last night. According to the FBI, standard procedure is to maintain a perimeter as follows. If it's a pipe bomb, mandatory evacuation is 70 feet if it's a pipe bomb, which is what we're talking about now. Suicide bomber, you're going to want to bump that back to 110 feet. It's in a briefcase. You got to be 150 away from it, like at least mandatory. If it's a semi-trailer, you better be 1,500 feet away. All right, just so you know. Preferred evacuation distance, though, to be ultra safe, safe 1,200 feet if it's a pipe bomb. So that's probably what you want your house speaker to be at least. Now, furthermore, they said that 300 feet is a good distance away. That didn't happen here. We're talking like 20 feet away from the bomb. Despite awareness of this device, law enforcement failed to stop pedestrians and other things. I think there were kids walking by. Here's a civilian walking by. 109, a group of civilians walked right by. Officer says, oh, come on down, just don't jaywalk. 1 minute later, another group of civilians. Are these kids? Look at all these people walking by the pipe bomb right there. Civilians. Secret Service standing here. They all know there's a pipe bomb there. They're not doing anything. 7 minutes after the discovery of a bomb, an apparent civilian vehicle drove past the DNC. Officer stopped the vehicle, but says just drive by there slowly in case it explodes. That way you'll get more shrapnel. 1 minute later, they said, we're too close to the bomb. You guys better expand the perimeter. At 1:14, another civilian walked along within mere feet of the bomb. Look at this dude. He walked past the device. Law enforcement standing there. They're like, man, you want to go tell that guy that he's too close to the bomb? Like, no. I'm not going to go over there and tell him. Well, somebody needs to tell him. Yeah, but I mean, I don't want to get close to the bomb to tell him there's a bomb there. Should we shout at him? Well, no, because then we'll scare everybody. Maybe we should throw something at him. Do you have anything to throw? I could throw my gun. No, you can't throw your gun because that might hurt him. Okay, well, maybe he's just walking away. And he finally just walks away and they just move on with their lives. At approximately 1:15, the Capitol Police officer advised over the radio, stop all traffic driving by the bomb, you idiots. We have vehicles driving right past this package and coming up. We need to make sure officers are posted up here right now. Despite this order, vehicular and pedestrian traffic continue to enter. You're like, I'm not getting close to that thing. Go put up a barricade. No way, man. I'm not getting out of here. Are you kidding me? You go put up the barricade. No, you. Back and forth. At 1:18, an individual then exited the door at the DNC garage. The door is directly behind the bush where the pipe bomb was located and leads to the pedestrian walkway. Somebody else walks by. Hey, someone says, hey, that dude should not be exiting the garage area. He's like, just a little January 6th. Unclear why the area was not cleared for more than 13 minutes. This guy's walking by. However, confusion regarding the perimeter and the traffic persisted. The Capitol Police provided an inaccurate evacuation directions. So that diverted and caused more civilians exiting the DNC to go near the bomb. He's like, no, definitely use the west exit. They're all coming out the west exit right past the bomb. It's insane. Here's police. Here's another civilian. Nearly 20 minutes after the discovery of the bomb, Capitol Police says, hey, we still got people coming out of the DNC walking towards the device. Send them out the back door. In response, the dispatcher instructed the units to direct civilians exiting the DNC to go in the correct direction. Hello. The dispatcher, however, did not repeat the specific directions or any other instructions. Then at 1:25, another Capitol Hill officer, noticeably frustrated with the failure of these idiots to secure the scene, implored the officers to contact DNC, tell them stop walking by the bomb. He calls over the radio. Once again, for the love of God, call the DNC security. Tell them evacuate the west end of the building to the east end, okay? Or evacuate from Ivy East to New Jersey Avenue South. I also need the Fairchild building restricted from pedestrians leaving, and I need those units on watch on South Capitol and E Street to clear out 1 block south. They're all like, holy crap, I have no idea what that dude just said to me. Did you hear what he said? East and north of something. Should we do anything? No, I think they got it. In the time span between that radio and 1:40, 6 law enforcement officials drove directly in front of the bomb. They're like, well, I think we should go that way. What did he say? He said we have to go west. Are you sure? I think he said go east. No, we're definitely going west. Okay, drive by. Pipe bombs right there. All right, a U.S. Capitol officer in a frustrated voice repeated once again, guys, stop driving by the bombs. Stop vehicles. The officer stated, this is the last time I'm going to ask this request. My gosh. We need the unit in front of the Fairchild building at the South Capitol and E to go 1 block south, okay? They are in line of sight of this package. Additionally, whoever is in that K9 vehicle parked on the east curb of the South Capitol, you need to move ASAP, dummies. No more vehicles need to be responding north on South Capitol past the package. Thank you. Move. Gosh. Police vehicle drives right by it. He's like, wait, should I move over here? Right here? This is a good spot. Park right here. This is where he said to stop. He's like, yeah. They're having a hard time. So you can see here's another U.S. Capitol Police vehicle. He's like, oh, move by the bomb. Oh, get closer to the bomb. Here's this other cop car. He's like, oh yeah, I see it. I'll park right here. Here's another one. Metro PD. He's like, oh, perfect. I love pipe bombs. That's great. Let me go take a look. You want me to go look at it? Yeah, I'll get close. Then the bomb squad truck shows up and he drives right by the bomb. Bomb squad's like, where is this place? I thought they sent directions. It's saying it's over here. I don't know. So 2 minutes later at 1:43, then the Capitol Police deployed its bomb robot from the incident command post. Maybe this thing can help. While the bomb robot engaged with the device in an attempt to transport it to the street for a controlled disruption, law enforcement continued to allow cars to pass on the street directly in front of the bomb robot and the pipe bomb outside of the DNC. All right. Could you imagine this, man? You're like taking your kids to school. Mommy, what is that? I don't know, Johnny. I think that might be a bomb robot, but certainly that's not true. So driving through, although officers were stationed along the security perimeter initially approached the car to speak to the driver, officers allowed the driver to continue in front of the DNC and the pipe bomb. They're like, no, you're good. It's just a pipe bomb. It won't blast your car. I mean, you might get some shrapnel in your face, whatever, but you're not going to die. So yeah, you're fine. Go through. 2 minutes later, an ambulance passed the pipe bomb, came within mere feet. They're like, well, this guy's basically already dead anyway, so who cares? So just drive through. What's fine? Going around is such a nightmare. Here comes the ambulance. It's car after car. It's like a comedy routine. Shortly after this, at approximately 1:54, nearly 50 minutes after they discovered this, a Capitol Hill police officer again is losing his freaking mind. He directed units. You guys have to stop vehicles. They're not allowed to drive past the pipe bomb. Remind the units on East Street and the southwest sector, any vehicles they let past them have to go southbound, okay? We just had one go north. We can't have that happen. No vehicles heading north, he says. All vehicles coming out of East Street southwest have to head south at this time. Now, despite the radio transmissions, 1 minute later, 2 law enforcement vehicles drove past the pipe bomb while the bomb robot prepared to transport the pipe bomb to the street to blow it up. Incredible. MPD vehicles driving right by. Here's the pipe bomb and the bomb robot. At 1:58, the bomb's robot transported the device from the walkway for a controlled demo. At 2:01, while the bomb robot had the pipe bomb in the middle of the street, law enforcement permitted another vehicle to drive where the bomb was about to explode. As the vehicle drove past the DNC, a Capitol officer mistakenly announced over the radio. Some Capitol Hill officer says, "At the RNC, fire in the hole, fire in the hole, fire in the hole," when the officer likely meant the DNC, so at the wrong building. Everybody at the RNC is like, what? RNC's blowing up? Where? The term fire in the hole is announced to notify law enforcement that they're going to blow up a package, and a possible inadvertent detonation of the device is imminent. The notification provides law enforcement with an opportunity to ensure the blast zone is free of any pedestrians. Less than a minute later, at 2:02, then another Capitol Hill officer says vehicles need to stop driving by the package on Canal in Washington. Units need to stop vehicles. Stop driving by the package. Stop it. At approximately 2:04, the officer initially who called fire in the hole for the RNC corrected her mistake. She said, "A hold on the RNC. What I meant is fire in the hole at the DNC." Oops. A dispatcher then repeated the advisement. Says, yeah, it's actually, she was wrong. It's at the DNC. Calling fire in the hole at the wrong scene is particularly dangerous because it places units at the wrong scene on notice that there's a bomb about to go off. Shortly after she corrected her mistake, another Capitol Hill officer directed units once again, "Stop all vehicles for the love." She's like, "All right, sir. I need a sergeant to respond to East Street Southwest. I cannot have any more vehicles responding northbound, nor pedestrians. I need everyone to clear out from this area. We will be disrupting this device here momentarily. I need it clear, and I need a sergeant on the scene to tell me when it's clear." At 2:05, after the Capitol Police officer notified units that the bomb squad would be disrupting this device, another police car drove north right past the pipe bomb. And this guy's like, "All right, that's it. I'm just going to go blow myself up. I've had enough. I'll just go take care of this bomb." He's just going to go end it. Just go blow himself into oblivion. I can't take this anymore. 2 minutes later, another civilian on a scooter approaches the pipe bomb. The person made it within several yards of the pipe bomb, well within the blast zone, well within the device. They're sitting there. "We stop that kid on the scooter? No. He'll go by fast." Immediately after this, the Capitol Police, notably frustrated once again, transmitted this. She transmitted, says, "We keep having vehicles and pedestrians walking on Washington Street. We please need everyone to use vigilance, okay? Stop all traffic at this time. All units," said another dispatcher, "all units, okay? You need to stop pedestrian vehicles. They're going going by the package, for crying out loud. All units on Washington and East Street, stop all traffic at this time. Please keep them from the bomb. Like, I don't know how many times this is. 1 minute later, a U.S. Capitol Police lieutenant called the DNC to confirm employees had evacuated. A DNC employee advised the evacuation's ongoing. And then at 2:11, another officer called fire in the hole at DNC. Less than a minute later, the robot engaged in the first of 2 controlled disruptions of the pipe bomb. Now, the subcommittee has obtained no record indicating the Capitol Police received a final notification from the DNC that the evacuation was complete. So they blew it up, even though the building was still presumably occupied, hadn't been completed yet. So they were like, that's good enough. At 2:26, the same white 4-door sedan that drove past the pipe bomb at 1:51 could be seen returning and turning left as the driver approaches the yellow police tape. The driver can be seen lifting the police tape over the vehicle, proceeding south and once again passing the pipe bomb. So there was a police line. This guy's like, I'm not going around. Like, I have to go through here. So walks out, lifts up the perimeter, drives right through. Meanwhile, a Capitol Police officer again directed, said a vehicle was driving past the bomb. I need units to maintain. We have a vehicle coming south. We're going to be disrupting the package. Stop letting people drive by. All units maintain your perimeter. Stay out of eye contact with the robot and maintain your perimeter. Now, despite this, again, another Capitol Police officer at 2:30 drove north on the street while the robot was engaged. Look, he drives right by it, right there. It's like totally incompetent. It's incredible. How many times on the radio? Like, basically everybody should be fired, right? Did you hear the radio? Yeah. Did you hear it 5 times? Yeah. Why'd you drive by? I don't know. You're fired. Thanks. In addition to permitting law enforcement vehicles to contaminate the scene, law enforcement also permitted 2 individuals to walk into the crime scene as they were processing and collecting the evidence. Interesting. Civilian walks right by the bomb robot. He's like, what the hell is that thing? That's crazy. What is that? It's probably me. What is that thing? It's pretty cool. Is that an explosive? Oh, it's a bomb robot. It's probably not going to explode. That's why they're here. Let me watch this. Let me record it. Put it on YouTube. You guys gotta check this out. I don't know what the hell this thing. Hey, so I can totally envision that. But throughout the afternoon, federal law enforcement failed to secure and maintain a safety perimeter. In total, more than 40 vehicles and 10 pedestrians breached the perimeter. The inability to prevent this shows that they're totally incompetent. Now, they also failed to maintain a perimeter around the RNC. So it's going to be the same story at the RNC. Same thing here. Police tape, civilians walking right on through it. Hey guys, I got people walking down the Republican side. Can you please stop them? More civilians just walking on down. It's going to be the same thing in a new location. Here you've got now Speaker Pelosi drives right by it. Speaker Pelosi goes down this street, right past the DNC pipe bomb, drives right by it. As it approached the DNC, Pelosi's motorcade stopped at the intersection where they were cordoning her off, drives right through it. In footage obtained, Speaker Pelosi, that was filmed by her daughter, U.S. Capitol Police security detail can be heard on video asking the officers if the street was blocked all the way off. Shortly after this, they allowed her motorcade to drive right past the pipe bomb. And if that bomb would have gone off, and if it would have caused some damage to Pelosi or to Kamala, that would have elevated this whole thing to a whole nother ballgame, right? As Speaker Pelosi's motorcade approached, Capitol Hill officer directed the units to maintain the perimeter and advised that they would be disrupting the bomb shortly. Please maintain your perimeter, but Pelosi drove right through it. Federal law enforcement had allowed 15 vehicles before hers to go through, which was obviously unsafe. Federal law enforcement failed to prevent commuter trains also. So commuter trains are driving through. They're like, well, the trains are going by. See right there. Here's a pipe bomb. There's that commuter train, bunch of people on board. That's within the perimeter, no doubt. Whether it would have been big enough to do damage, who knows? But wouldn't you stop those or think about it? They asked questions about it. The perimeter was frequently breached. They failed to ensure adequate resources back at the Capitol. While the security perimeter around the DNC and RNC was frequently breached, they also prevented the Capitol Police from getting 400 bike racks early that afternoon, which would have been protective barriers around the Capitol. The need for the bike racks was acute because there was an inexplicable last-minute demand on January 5th at 9:10 p.m. to take the absolutely illogical step of removing 500 bike racks from around the Capitol. The removal at 9:10 on January 5th, who made this decision, to remove 500 bike racks on the evening of January 5th may have obscured the line between what was deemed public and restricted space. Then Chief Security Officer for the architect of the Capitol testified that removing the bike racks to a known event was so different than what we would normally do. Put those up. People can't run through those. They're giant metal barriers and they look like bike racks. So 500 of them were taken away. That's so different than what we would normally do for a big event. Now, you said, madam, that there was something about this bike rack removal was strange, right? You said it was strange. You said you characterized this removal approval as a late night request. You were told that the reason for the change was due to the concern that demonstrators would be trapped on the two egg-shaped areas, and you said that this explanation did not track with past setups, including those used in November and December, and that the change didn't make sense from a security perspective. So what did you mean when you said that? She says, well, it was so different than what we would normally do. And I was so concerned that when I let Brett Blanton, the architect, know, because it was out of my norm of what we've done in the past, it was my opinion that it was different and laxer security than we had put up in place in previous events. Again, bike rack is normally used. The best use of it is just as directional mechanisms for crowd marking on where they can and cannot go. So it's a perimeter that says this is restricted area. Hasbury also explained that the critical timing of the discovery of the pipe bombs prevented them from putting the bike rack lines back up. So on January 6th, you're asked whether the team is ready to move 400 bike racks back. Are they able to do that? She says, well, so on the 6th, one of the numerous calls I received was from Robert Ford, Capitol Police Security Services, saying we need to get bike racks to the east front. They're being overrun. So I called my team first and said, hey, I'm going to send you traffic, but I need you to at least start the process. Have the contractor ready to move. Now I can explain what happened, why I didn't get there. Our contractor loaded it up. Now, if you're familiar with the campus, my office is in Fairchild. They loaded up the bike rack. They were ready with the police escort to get it to the east front. That was when one of the exploded improvised devices was found. So that team could not get the bike rack because you had the larger issue at the DNC, so we couldn't put the bike racks out. So is it fair to say that an additional 400 bike racks, they were never put in place, right? Well, it was later that night. So it wasn't until later that night after they'd cleared the buildings, they put the bike racks back after J6 was over. So what did that do? Well, it severely exposed the Capitol. When they wanted to put 400 bike racks back up, the delivery attempt was thwarted. You're not allowed to put bike racks up, but you can drive through bomb zones. A question to Stephen D'Antuono, one of the FBI field office agents, assistant director at the FBI. Question to him. Are you familiar with the diversion thesis, that these were set up to be a diversion, Stephen? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people say that, but if you watch, I've done a lot of media reports. I was trying to get the information out there. I was not going to speculate on that. I think it's speculation at best when people say it's diversionary. Well, we'll never know until we find the person that actually did it or the persons that actually did it. So I can't speculate on that. Could it have been? Yeah, that's one theory. Obviously, it's one theory, but is it the only theory? I don't really know. Well, the Capitol Hill chief of police believes it was a diversion. He says, yeah, so Stephen Sund, chief of police, yes, I believe he wrote that in his book, but it's pure speculation. There's no intelligence. He says, look, I ran the investigation for 2 years until I stepped out. We don't know. We don't even know the gender at this point. Well, we could speculate. There's a lot of people that are speculating as to the gender of the pipe bomber. Well, how confident are you that the individual depicted in the surveillance footage on J5 set both those pipe bombs in place? Steve says, well, so the video that we saw, I feel confident that by the video that we have, that person planted those. Do you think they intended for the bomb to go off the next day? Can't speculate on that, sir. Well, let me ask you this. Do you think it was technically possible for a kitchen timer? No. That has a 1 hour duration? No. To detonate a bomb 17 hours later? No, I don't. And I saw the same kitchen timer as you. I agree. I don't know when they were supposed to go off. Maybe they weren't supposed to go off. We don't know. We honestly don't know. And that's some of the pain. Now, as the FBI has failed to apprehend the suspect, the bomber's intent for placing the devices hasn't been definitively established. However, the effect of the pipe bombs is that it diverted attention away from the Capitol, and the refusal of the top FBI agents to acknowledge this is striking. The significance of these bombs to how the events unfolded cannot be overstated. The evidence suggests the pipe bomber diverted attention away at the exact time where they needed it most. Continuing, the delayed discovery of the pipe bomb marked serious security failures. After the U.S. Capitol Police declared the scenes cleared, the next phase began, the investigation. But we're 4 years later, and they've been unable to apprehend the so-called pipe bomber. And here's why. Following the discovery of the pipe bomb, they discovered an investigation into the person who planted the bombs. Early in its investigation, they had a suspect or a person of interest, but they have failed to identify this individual. Here's the background. On the night of J5, security cameras captured a suspect wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt, a white mask, black gloves, glasses, Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers, and an unidentified backpack. They say this dude, probably 5'7", shoe length 12.37 inches in length, translates to a male shoe size of 9.5 to 12. Or Liz Cheney was just wearing big boots. As of January 2023, the FBI and its law enforcement partners interviewed 1,000 people, 1,200 residents, 500 tips, 39,000 video files, 30 different data sets, including hardware stores, shoe vendors, cell carrier companies, 105 million million data points. Despite all of this, can't find the dude. Still failed to arrest and prosecute the pipe bomber. Here's the photo that we've seen many times. Can't find the guy. You know what they should do? They should have that grandma McDonald's worker who identified Luigi Mangione. Has she taken a look at this photo yet? Because she found that dude at a McDonald's. Like, no problem at all. Crazy. The suspect repeatedly appeared on CCTV footage over and over again. A review of open source info and security camera footage says that he was constantly identified. He was first seen on camera, southeast part of the Capitol, near the power plant, then headed north towards Memorial Park on the way to the DNC, then headed west towards Spirit of Justice Park, then turned left, walking towards the DNC. After walking about halfway towards the DNC, stopped, turned around, briefly retraced their steps at the top of the street right there. Then, between 741 and 47, walked again south towards the DNC. This time, the suspect approached the west end of the building, sat on the park bench next to the DNC before continuing to walk around. The suspect walked past the front entrance of the DNC and approached the rear of the building. The suspect then at 750 retraced their steps, again walking around the DNC, passing in front of the main entrance before sitting on a second bench next to the initial one. The suspect appears to remove an object from the backpack before placing what appears to be the device next to the bench, seen there. Then they retraced their steps back to the DNC, went back to the power plant, disappeared out of the CCTV camera footage, gone. Then at 8:09, seen back on the security camera footage, entered the alleyway, now we're at the RNC, approached the back of the RNC building, walked to the alley, and then around the club. The suspect re-entered the alley at 8:14, reapproached the rear, and likely planted the device at about 8:16 p.m. Then turned around, walked away from the RNC and the Capitol Hill, last time this person was captured publicly on video. It's incredible. In Washington, D.C., they lost this dude with cameras. Remember how much effort they put into Luigi Mangione, and they were backtracing everything? They followed him and they found that he got on a bus or a subway or whatever. They didn't follow this guy back onto anything, on a subway, a bus, nothing, gone. According to internal communications, he was last seen on 6th Street turning onto D Street, heading towards the Eastern Market when suddenly there's no more camera technology. After reviewing the suspect's movement and the manner in which the suspect carried their backpack, the FBI issued a press release saying they believe the suspect operated out of the area around Folger Park, a neighborhood near the RNC. In an earlier press release, they suggested he may have entered a vehicle or taken an item from a vehicle near Folger Street. Now, they tracked everything about this dude early. Early in the investigation, the FBI identified the shoes that he wore on J5. In an effort to identify the suspect, they issued 18 subpoenas to shoe vendors for individuals who purchased the sneaker model, Nike Air Max Speed Turf sneakers, the specific model. Okay, so they got an imprint of the sole and matched that, and then found 18 people who were wearing this shoe. Shoe vendors. By early 2021, not the people, the vendors, people who sell these shoes. They got dozens or received responses from all 18 of them. In a document obtained by the committee, the FBI noted that as of early Feb 21, the returns from 18 shoe vendor subpoenas resulted in a list of 307 individuals who purchased the specific sneaker model, that one. During the list of individuals, it was not inclusive of all customers because Nike, which stopped selling the sneaker in 2018, did not maintain transaction records after more than 1 year. Okay, so the shoes are old. How recently were they purchased? The case team also received subpoena results from Redacted, identifying 400 transactions from other sneakers. The FBI subsequently compared these results in efforts to identify the lead. However, it remains unclear if they got anything. Now, most notably, they did identify a person of interest who owned a pair of sneakers and who worked in the area of the crime. In a response to that lead, the case team conducted a deep dive into this person of interest to establish independent corroboration of where he was on J5. The FBI requested and received multiple internet-based platforms and telecom service providers' details, but to date, it's unclear whether they've determined if this person of interest was involved in the pipe bomb, and presumably the answer is no, but you can't trust them. Now, while the suspect's shoes were distinct, the suspect's backpack, which was used to transport both devices, lacked any unique features. Despite this, the case team attempted to identify the make and model, and they contacted 18 possible manufacturers. In April, the case team got enhanced video of the backpack. By May, the FBI received no positive responses from any manufacturers. Remains unclear how successful they were in attempting to connect any persons of interest to the backpack, and that hasn't been fruitful. Now, they did initially identify multiple suspects of interest. Almost immediately, they identified multiple persons of interest whose actions on J5 raised questions. In documents retained by the committee, there was a POI 2, so not POI 1, who on the morning of J5 5, 9 hours before the explosive devices were planted, captured this person photographing a dumpster next to where the bomb would be planted. According to the FBI, after taking pictures, POI 2 walked around the Capitol complex, met with two other, quote, unidentified subjects, returned to the same alleyway behind the RNC, entered another metro station, and rode the metro down to Virginia. Notably, agents assigned to the case team determined POI 2 used Uber and a smart trip card, who was registered to another POI 3 who lived in Virginia. According to internal emails, the FBI's case team considered POI 2's movements highly suspicious and considered POI 2 a possible accomplice to the pipe bomber. Wow. In weeks following J6, FBI directed significant resources to investigating POI 2 and POI 3. For example, the FBI placed both POI 1 and 3 under FISR, which is physical surveillance by the Washington field office. The FBI obtained grand jury subpoenas for their cell phones and issued preservation requests for all of their blank, blank, and blank accounts. With help from the Capitol Police, they also tracked the movement of the two unidentified subjects that they met with outside the Capitol. On J19, 2021, FBI agents also interviewed POI 2, ultimately eliminated that person as a person of interest. According to a summary of the interview, they learned that this person traveled to Washington to attend the activities, and they were photographing objects bearing numerals, including doors, dumpsters, and other objects, for a book. He's like writing a book. The review of the cell phone appears to corroborate the story. However, the interview summary does not elaborate further on how the case team verified the story. Following the interview, they ruled them both out. Then they identified another vehicle of interest that was driving past the RNC minutes after the device was planted. Vehicle of interest 1 is something driven by an individual wearing a gray hooded sweatshirt in the passenger seat as the vehicle drove by the RNC. Here's the gray hooded passenger. You see that person driving by. The route taken by the vehicle appeared to follow the Independence Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue, except for a brief detour around the block of the RNC. This was just minutes after the suspect is last seen walking through the alleyway. So perusing around these locations, you can see they give us a graphic detail. The FBI's team acquired footage from properties along these streets, and the FBI submitted requests for license plate reader materials. As initial efforts failed to identify the vehicle, they served an emergency data request to Blank, requesting the company identify 88 international mobile subscriber IDs associated with vehicles in the relevant cell tower data, 15-digit identifier, and according to the FBI, vehicle manufacturers install SIM cards in their vehicles. Did that have it? 3 days after submitting that, they got 84 vehicle VINs. The FBI then began cross-referencing those. In early 2021, they eliminated vehicle 1 as a vehicle of interest. According to an internal document, the FBI determined the passenger was first captured within the vehicle at 8:17. Meanwhile, the suspect was seen 3/4 of a mile away, and although of this minor discrepancy, the accuracy is critically important given their suspicious behavior. So are they being accurate on that? Now, the FBI also identified the Googler. Unable to identify the suspect within the first month, they then got warrants, probably to Google, requesting identities of any user who searched specific search terms like RNC, DNC in the days leading up to the event. In March, the FBI identified one Blank user that searched the term pipe bomb DC within the data received from February 21 search warrant. Here's a note. The case team is working with DC U.S. Attorney's Office to swear out a search warrant which requests the identities of anyone who searched specific terms, RNC, pipe bomb, etc. in the days leading up to this and the hours after placement before the discovery of the pipe bomb. So one person knows about it. Case team are reviewing results, saying that they're analyzing data to determine what to unmask. They anticipate having an affidavit, and they identified one Blank user that searched pipe bomb DC in the data set. Who is that person? Why were they searching that? Following this discovery, the FBI prepared an affidavit seeking to unmask or identify the names and identifying information of 300 Blank accounts contained within the data set. By mid-April, however, Blank had unmasked the identities of these accounts, and during its review, they identified 50 missing accounts. According to documents obtained by the committee, Blank did not provide the FBI with the identities of these accounts because they were not logged in for their searches. The accounts were linked by internet cookies. Internet cookies track certain types of information, and so they don't know where the FBI is on this one. Immediately after the start of the investigation, they identified multiple persons of interest through security camera footage. Their efforts utilized some of the most advanced tools, but they still can't find this person. Despite contrary statements, the FBI claims it could also not complete a geofence. During its investigation, they identified at least 5 different instances in which security camera footage revealed the suspect suspect using a cell phone. As a result, they issued warrants to the cell phone companies. The warrants requested cellular and blank data associated with mobile devices around January 5th, and they've claimed that the data they got was corrupted. However, the providers dispute those claims. They say the FBI almost immediately issued a geofence warrant to try to identify the devices. Upon receiving the warrants and the return from the companies, they began identifying devices of interest. In the first 2 weeks, 11 devices of interest from the geofence gave names of owners. By late January, they also identified 5 devices that were present in the geofence for both the pipe bomb case and from the events at the Capitol. Now, after analyzing these 5 devices, the FBI determined that all 5 devices had Arizona phone numbers tied to their accounts, and all 5 appeared in the vicinity of the Capitol South Metro station. You know who was from Arizona? Ray Epps! Weird. Rather than near the part of the RNC where the pipe bomb was placed. The FBI also noted it in documents obtained by the subcommittee that none of the 5 devices appeared near the DNC or in the intersection and the RNC, and they eliminated the owners of those devices from the pipe bomb. They similarly, the FBI, targeted 3 major cell phone carriers, blank, blank, and blank, by issuing search warrants related to the pipe bomb there. The 3 carriers provide 98% of all coverage, so they should have had this person. From the information from the FBI, they got 35 phone numbers there, which appeared in all 3 target areas and made a call at 741. FBI analyzed this. The number grew to 130 devices. Then in the weeks and months, they posted this. Said the case team has received returns from these warrants in response to the cell warrants, is continuing to scrub the names, and they're doing that there. Now what we saw, 36 of these phone numbers were assigned to agents for interviews. 98 of these phone numbers required additional investigative steps. 51 of those phone numbers were identified as not needing further action because the phones are law enforcement or persons on the exclusion list. So that, like, they're people. We'd call those feds, undercover, confidential human source, whatever label you want to apply. Why are they being excluded? As the FBI continued analyzing large data sets from the carriers, certain devices exhibited behavior consistent with the suspect. For example, on April 21, the case team identified a blank user who was in the area of the DNC at the time. FBI requested, got historical cell data, ultimately unclear what happened to this lead. In addition to this, also got warrants for ad companies. Ad companies get data when they serve you ads with their ad ID and personal identifier numbers. By March, the case team identified 1 ad ID whose movements matched the suspect's movements and requested surveillance. Also unclear what happened to this lead. Who knows what happened there? The FBI effort to collect this data did lead to credible leads, but now 4 years later, we don't know what the status of any of that is. Then they accused the FBI major cell phone carriers of providing them with corrupted data, which is obviously not true. In June of 2023, former assistant director in charge of the FBI field office testified before the judiciary. D'Antonio served as the assistant director and oversaw the pipe bomb investigation. During this interview, he confirmed they did do a geofence, but did you get that data? He said no, it was corrupted. Here's that exchange. Question from Congress. All right, Stephen, we received a video of this. The alleged perpetrator uses a cell phone. That produced nothing. It's a geofence of data cell records, right? FBI. So there's a lot of data, phone data coming in. Yes, I've seen the same video. Yes, I've watched the same video. We put out the same video. It looks like a phone. Was it a real phone? Not a real phone? Was it a ruse? So was the person just sitting there trying to pretend like they're on a bench taking a phone call? We don't know until we find the person, right? And ask them those questions. So we did a complete geofence. We have complete data. I mean, not complete, because there was some data that was corrupted by one of the providers, not purposefully by them, right? It's just unusual circumstance that we have corrupt data from one of the providers. I can't remember right now which one, but for that day, which is awful because we don't have the information to search. So could it have been that provider? Yeah, with our luck, you know, with this investigation, it probably was, right? I mean, so maybe if we did have that, if that data wasn't corrupted and if it wasn't purposely corrupted, so that is painful for us not to have that. So, you know, we look for everything. We don't have that though. What the hell did you just say, dude? So you have all the data, but you don't have all the data. It's all corrupted and you really wish you had it though, because you could have found the guy except for that one thing. Got it. Following his testimony, the subcommittee said that's a lie, obviously. So they sent letters to all major carriers, blank, blank, and blank, Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Thanks for redacting this. Asking each cell carrier to confirm whether they provided corrupted cell tower data to the FBI and whether they contacted those cell carriers to inform them that a portion of the data was corrupted. In written responses, here's what they say. The FBI never told us about anything being corrupted. They say blank was provided with warrants by law enforcement, including from the FBI, seeking cell site information for specific areas within DC for the dates of J5 and J6. We provided responsive, accessible cell site information for all the devices that pinged the indication indicated cell sites during the time of the warrants. That would often include devices that were powered on, but were not being used by an individual actively interacting with the device because it's got to maintain the signal. Now, to the best of our knowledge, the cell carriers say, we did not provide corrupted data in response to any of these warrants. Depending on the size of the files, Verizon may have shared them in an encrypted form through our workflow management system or Citrix's share file, which is a file sharing platform. To the best of our knowledge, no law enforcement entity indicated that any of the above referenced data we provided was corrupted or unreadable. Never happened. If we were made aware of any of these issues, we would work with law enforcement officers to try to solve the issue. Here's another memo from another one. Blank stores information only to the extent that we need to. Moreover, Blank is not able to identify with particularity legal requests a certain thing. However, we did receive a number of law enforcement requests and legal demands related to the J6, and it's likely that those requests were responded to in the order they were received. Now, our company has not identified any communications or reports from the FBI or any other federal investigative entity showing that anything was corrupted or unreadable. Didn't happen. More generally, if they have a concern with data, we'll address it. We'll provide all responsive information that you need. So the FBI lied. And here's another one, a letter from Blank. In response to Loudermilk's letter, I am confirming that based upon a reasonable internal inquiry, none of the records that AT&T provided to law enforcement regarding cell data were corrupted. Okay, 3 for 3. Nothing was corrupted, but he lied and said it was. During a follow-up with D'Antonio, he reiterated he was briefed by agents about the corrupted data, but I can't give you any specifics. So some other agent who's internal mole, no, I deleted his name from the list. That's corrupted. The cellular carrier's response undermines the previous testimony from the FBI, who are liars. Following J6, the FBI identified security camera footage showing this dude was using a cell phone. As a result, they took significant steps to investigate, couldn't find anything, then lied to us all and said the data was corrupted. Liars. The FBI also said the pipe bombs were viable, but didn't tell us how. According to the FBI, both of those pipe bombs with 60-minute kitchen timers, which obviously were not on or didn't work, they said that they were viable and they could have seriously killed or injured people because they needed to make J6 into something. They also said the suspect planted pipe bombs the night before and didn't explain how their 60-minute timers could work 16 hours later. Unclear whether they could even be detonated because they blew them up there at the scene too. According to an FBI bomb technician who agreed to speak with the staff on condition of anonymity, the use of the term viable is a deviation for standard descriptions. Traditionally, bomb technicians don't use vague language. They refer to a bomb as a device if it would function as designed, or they call it a hoax. That's it. It's a device if it'll explode, or it's a hoax if it will not. We don't call it viable. What does that mean? It's either a bomb or it isn't. In the case of the pipe bomb, it's unclear why they use the word viable in a non-standard format. In the initial weeks and months of the investigation, the FBI also invested significant resources into identifying the suspect through the pipe bomb's parts. In furtherance, they contacted major distributors like the kitchen timer people and more. They tried to track the purchases of what led to the bombs. And here they are. Looks like some metal piping with end caps on it that you'd use in, gas or water. And then kitchen timer with some wires drilled into the top of one of the end caps. In addition to analyzing the pipe bomb components, the FBI examined the devices for any human fingerprints, but according to the documents, no prints, no DNA or anything else. Within the first 2 weeks of the investigation, they identified the specific brand of the timers and tried to go find who bought it. They found customers who purchased 2 or more timers between December 1, 2020 and Jan 5, 21. As a result of this request, 6 people who purchased more than 1 kitchen timer since December 2020. Specifically, the FBI identified an individual who bought 4 just days before J5. According to a document, the FBI appears to have reviewed security footage. It's unclear what happened to that lead. No one knows. In February, they expanded the time frame for online purchases and in-store purchases, and they got 241,000 results. Then they provided a list of people of interest to compare against this other data. Now, after determining chemical components of the black powder found inside, they attempted to contact the stores for that. The initial request to Blank, for example, asked for customer information for anybody who purchased these things, and they got 60 individuals who bought 2 of the chemical inputs. Then they compared those with the rest of their data. Don't know what that returned. As with other components, the FBI reached out to stores and commercial distributors for the pipe nipples and the end caps used in the bombs. They identified, and the nipple is the part of the pipe that you attach the other part to, kind of like a nipple. By early February 2021, 2021, the case team had conducted interviews for all 10 customers who reported purchasing pipe nipples for end caps for home and work projects. Now, as the case team's initial efforts to identify this person failed, they expanded their request for more pipe nipples. Similarly, the FBI also requested commercial distributors for end caps, and they came up with 5. In its analysis of the pipe bomb, we know that the FBI said that the batteries that were used were 9-volt something batteries, maybe Duracell. The FBI contacted the company to determine which retail stores received and sold the device's batteries. And it said that the FBI batteries used in the devices originated in a lot which was not sold by any of the 4 distribution centers. Wow. And so they went to Malaysia to see where the batteries came from. By late January, someone informed the FBI the device's batteries originated in products that were distributed to locations in 26 states and still tried to identify them. Then they got a partial print, possible serial number on the wires used in the devices. They contacted the manufacturer to see if he ordered them there, couldn't get enough info. Now, as the case team attempted to track down each individual component, it also tried to identify redacted. Within the first 2 weeks, the FBI identified 532 individuals who redacted. After further investigation, they got 532 down to 68. Remains unclear what resulted from this analysis. A lot of data that came from this. They expanded the scope, but still, suspect is at large. Now, in addition, after analyzing the pipe bombs, they publicly released information describing the bombs as viable. However, given the 60-minute timers and the 16 hours that elapsed, remains unclear if they were even capable of detonating. They've refused to tell us, would they even explode? In the immediate aftermath, as we near the end of this report, the FBI's case team worked aggressively to cultivate and pursue leads toward apprehending the suspect. 50 investigators, special agent, and more at the outset, but of those 50, 30 were special agents. The team comprised everybody: cellular team, computer team, digital imaging team, 105 million data points, but still, their investigative efforts yielded a promising array of leads. By the end of February 2021, the FBI began diverting resources away from this investigation. One possible explanation, well, they don't have any more credible leads, but 4 years later, no suspect has been arrested or identified. Discovered shortly before and after the initial breach, the pipe bombs played a role. They caused resources to be diverted. According to the FBI, they were viable. They said in their own words, they could have seriously killed or injured people, and then they paraded Kamala Harris through it and Nancy Pelosi and many civilians and kids walking by the bombs like it ain't nothing. The subcommittee's investigation also revealed numerous findings about how they investigated this. They took considerable steps to find this guy. Security camera footage, geo-fences, cell warrants they lied about, track the components, but they couldn't find anything. 4 years later, no one. The subcommittee began this investigation and shined light on this. The committee will continue their oversight and provide us more information, including legislative reforms, to address this. We knew already that the FBI was incompetent or complicit. It's one of the two. And what we have seen here are a lot of additional investigative efforts, but not many answers. And so you can draw a conclusion from that and maybe believe that the FBI is just not trying so hard because they know who is really behind this. Somebody said that data was corrupted. Stephen D'Antonio, as we know, lied about that. The telecoms companies are in the data business. They are not in the business of having corrupted materials. So we'll be here. Thanks for subscribing and joining us as our coverage continues.